Welcome back to Cafe Tuesday, Chapter 50, Episode 3. So today in this video, I will be telling you how I challenged the board to take my NCLEX and become a nurse at the age of 47. If you are wondering about how to do that, keep watching.
Welcome back to Cafe Tuesday. Same energy, new chapter. Softly in, then breathe it in. Let it wash, let it settle. Steam on the window pane. Cup ring on the wood. Your name in a small notebook where the hard days used to be. I came here with my guard up. Now I leave a little lighter. Mending what the week.
So I live here in South Florida. I've been in South Florida for about 14 years now. And it took me a long time to even get to the point of actually going to nursing school because I think I was procrastinating by researching and, just putting it off or whatever. I was over 40, my kids had grown up, and I found every excuse as to why not to start until I finally decided enough was enough. So once I decided on a school, I had already taken some of my prerequisites at the local community college here, Palm Beach State. I went ahead and enrolled and I got started. Well, I didn't have the best experience with this school. So by the time I got to the end, I was 1 month from finishing graduating. And I decided that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to move forward with this school. I wanted to get my degree from a school that was ACEN and CCNE accredited. Now, this particular school is accredited. They just didn't have the accreditation that I needed in order for me to progress in my career the way that I wanted to. A lot of times, hospitals will not hire based on certain credentials that a school may or may not have. So I wasn't aware that I was going to still be boxed in. I thought I'm just going to challenge the board and I'm going to, get out here. I'm going to be a floor nurse. I'm going to get started and do what I need to do. Now, originally, I'm from Oregon. I'm from the West Coast. And I know that Florida pay is way lower than most of the other states around the country. So my plan initially was that I was going to go back to the West Coast, i.e., Oregon, and begin my journey there on my career and get paid and live my best life, and then return back to school to finish anything else that I wanted to do. Well, it didn't work out like that. So here in the state of Florida, they have something called the PNEQ, which is the Practical Nurse Equivalency, meaning that if you are enrolled in a full-time RN program, once you satisfy most of the requirements and or education needed to cover LPN education, you can then apply to challenge the board. The process is relatively the same. Now, however, it is up to the school's discretion to decide whether or not to let you move forward in this type of situation. My school does allow students to move forward. Now, mind you, I had never failed a semester. I didn't have any academic issues. It was just a lot going on in my personal life at the time, and I was just really dissatisfied with what was going on with the school at the time. And I had enough. Enough was enough. So I went ahead and submitted my application to the school first. And then I did my application to the Florida Board of Nursing. And I think that cost like $125, $130, something like that. Then I did the background check. These are some of the requirements. I did the level 2 background check, and I think that was like $60 or $70. And then once the board approved me for testing, then I received an email and I was able to go ahead and schedule on Pearson View. That I believe was about $200. So that's your ATT, your authorization to test. So I got all that. I went and took my exam. I passed in 85 questions and I was done in about 90 minutes. Um, I really felt like I was being pranked because it felt super easy to me. I don't know. Maybe that's because I was more prepped for an RN over LPN. I don't know. So I passed. I found out a few days later. I was so excited, as you can see from this video here. And I began to job search. So I got my first job offer at a facility close to my home, and I began working. So I went through training, probably about a week's worth of training, which is not cool, but that's what happened. Went through training, got out on the floor, and was doing my thing. And then I decided, you know what? I think I'm ready. I want to go back to Oregon. This little money that they pay me here in Florida, it's not going to cut it. And I wanted to go back to school, but I didn't want to struggle financially while doing so. So I decided that I was going to just go ahead and get my multi state license. Well, once I got online and started to go through the application process, it was then that I learned that I was ineligible. So basically, you have to technically graduate from an approved program, right? Well, since I didn't really graduate, I wasn't eligible. I could not get a multi state license. So, yeah, your girl was SOL, okay? But not really. So, or so I thought, I should say. So, I continued on working and everything was fine. And then I decided that I was going to do more research because I said, I know that for a fact, Florida was not the only state that allows a PNEQ type of testing situation. So I started my research and I did find about five other states for sure, one of which being like North Carolina. I have to go back through my list and tell you all the states. All right. So my list for licensure by endorsement, um, these are not confirmed, but it was just based on the verbiage of the websites. Some of them will specifically state that you can get endorsement if you graduated from an approved program. California only said that you needed to be licensed. North Carolina, I believe South Dakota, Utah, and Kentucky. Also, you can do Louisiana, however, you have to be a resident. So I haven't quite began that application process because I wasn't quite sure on what I wanted to do next. As you guys know, I am planning to move abroad. I have started my own brand, Codes and Culture, as well as Tuesday at 5. Codes and Culture is my nursing essentials, and Tuesday at 5 is more of my resort tote bag, beachy type stuff. Um, as well as now doing my YouTube channel. So I wanted to kind of wait and see, what was going to be the next move before I start doing these applications. Now, I do plan to absolutely do my California application because obviously California pays and your girl is trying to get paid. So I do plan on doing that. And once I do that, I will come back and let you guys know how that process is going, if I got licensure or not, and what my next steps will be for the remaining states. So you have to know that there are several states that do actually do the same thing as Florida. They will allow you to go ahead and challenge the board once you've completed so much of your RN program. And you guys can research your own states because I don't want to be giving misinformation to see if you are indeed eligible for that. But the process, like I said, was relatively the same as if you were going to take your RN or anything like that. So you can work. Now, the problem here is LPNs are not highly used in the hospitals in Palm Beach County, which I live in Palm Beach County. One of the hospitals only hires seasonal LPNs because we do have an influx of what they call, what do they call them? The birds, the people that fly in from like Canada and New York for the winter, things like that. Snowbirds. Yes. So they only hire, I want to say the lady told me they only had like 2 or 3 LPNs for the entire hospital. And then the other hospitals up here, they use a lot of LPNs as techs. So you'll see them in the ER, working as techs, and sometimes on like the med surg floors. It just depends on the hospital. I haven't quite researched what the hospitals down south allow as far as LPNs. I know that when I used to work for HCA, they did indeed have nurses, LPNs on the floor with an assignment, just like the RN. So there would usually be an RN as well as an LPN. But that's when I was on the ortho floor. I can't speak for the other floors. So you're not entirely boxed in with your LPN, and when you are essentially stuck in the state that you've been licensed in, there are still a lot of things that you can do. Now, one of the things that I have looked at is remote jobs. Some of the remote jobs are, as long as you have, your Florida license, if they are I don't want to say a Florida based company, but if they're serving Florida, then yes, you can. You can work in long term care, you can work at hospitals, you can work in clinics. There's a lot of things that you can do as an LPN. The other thing is also aesthetics. I am also a licensed esthetician. Well, actually, I need to renew my license, but nevertheless, nonetheless, your girl is a licensed esthetician. So you can go into aesthetics. Aesthetics is a great field to go into if you love skincare, if you love beauty, if you love helping people to look beautiful, then that is the place for you. I know that as an esthetician by itself, I could only do certain chemical peels. I can't say for a fact that I can go deeper into the skin now that I am a nurse. I'm not quite sure. I have not practiced aesthetics in a while, but it is something that I do plan to return to. At one point, I was doing permanent makeup. I did have my tattoo license, I had my esthetician license, and your girl was out here, okay, doing these eyebrows. Once I return back to Southeast Asia, I do plan to get more training. Um, Southeast Asia is really big on skincare, beauty, and aesthetics. So it's a great place to train without the high cost, because here you try to go to someone to learn microblading or micro shading, those things, and it's going to cost you upwards of $5,000 if you are getting trained properly. Now, as far as becoming a nurse at 47, let's see, I started my program at 46. I had just turned 46, I believe. Yes, that was it was okay because I was older and I had more patience and I was more dedicated. And your girl also understood this costs money. I am not here to waste my money or my time. But it can be difficult just depending on where you are, because some of your classmates may be way younger than you and they may not respect, the space around them, if you will, and, you know, other knowing that other people are there to get their education and focus and try to learn. So there were some times that, class was a little bit difficult, but, I just stayed focused and I pushed through. I used a multitude of resources to help me get through straight A nursing. I also used Level Up RN. I actually have the whole set of these. So I've got Med Surge, Maternity, Farm, and something like I've got all the box sets. It cost me about $400 or whatever, but I was worth the investment. So I went ahead and did that. I did find it to be easier to study because, like I said, my kids are grown up, everybody's out the house, and, doing my thing. And I pretty much I worked from home in the beginning, so I was able to, take calls and study in between. Your girl was multitasking, okay. So I was home primarily all day long, and I would study from sun up to sundown. I was not playing any games because for me, I knew that I could not keep living life the way that I was living as far as, working jobs per se. I needed to have a real career. I needed to know that I was not going to be, somebody out here needing to rely on somebody else or, anything like that, just anything bad. I wanted to know that I was going to be okay by the time I turned 50. So nursing was my safety plan and I made sure to get there. Now, do I plan to return to school? Absolutely. I do plan to return to finish my BSN. I am currently enrolled in an online program, so I am getting ready to pretty much start all over. with the exception of the prerequisites that I received from the community college here. I did some at the school that I went to for the nursing program. I don't want anything from them. So I am essentially starting over. Sounds crazy. I actually could have gone to another school. I could have just taken my transcripts and gone to another school here and been done in about 9 to 10 months, but I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to know that I was going to a school that fit what I'm trying to do, educating me properly, having the proper accreditation, and a name that was respected. Now, how things are going to work for people moving forward regarding this whole student aid, financial aid, and nursing not being a profession or whatever, I don't know, but I do know that you should not let it stop you. There are a ton of resources out there to help you get through your programs. So, one of being which is the Nurse Corps program, which I will drop the link down below. Nurse Corps is great because they will actually pay for your entire education as well as give you a stipend every month of about, I think, $1,500, something like that. Don't quote me. So you'll have a little income to assist you while you're going to school. The only thing is, I think they require you to work 2 years in an underserved community, which honestly, what better place to be? Because when you are in communities like that, you are definitely going to be shaped into a very strong nurse. So it's not a bad thing. You also have WOIA. I don't know if it is currently still doing that, but these are things that I'm dropping for you guys to further research and look into. WOIA. Oh my goodness, I've had my mic laying down on the table the whole time. Shame on me. WOIA is a program through the Workforce Investment Act, unemployment, if you will, and they will also pay for a lot of your school. I worked with a lady who used that program herself, and I think in the end, all she had to pay was like $6,000 or whatever. And she's gone on to further her education, and now she's like a nurse manager. So kudos to her. Y'all are definitely going to have to forgive me because I am so new to YouTube, and this mic has been laying here on my desk the whole time. So whatever. But yes, look into the resources that are available to you, because just because, this whole nursing isn't a profession thing is taking place doesn't mean that there aren't other things that you can get to help you get through your program. And if push comes to shove, you work and you save and you pay out of pocket as much as you possibly can. There are some programs that will allow you to have a balance once you graduate and take your NCLEX, because they understand that, people don't have all the money to finish making all of their payments up front before graduation. And for my nurse girlies that are over 45, even 50, don't be discouraged. I had people in my class that were older than me at that time. I think she was like 51 or 52. So we're out there and we're going to school, and so can you. You just have to be focused on yourself. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Don't worry about, how people are looking at you. You can absolutely do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. You have to just dedicate the time to yourself and find a place that allows you to be able to study in peace. I know we all have families, kids, etc. Life is happening at home. Girl, go to Panera Bread. I did. I would study, in coffee shops or libraries or wherever, but find the space that allows you to do what you need to do to get it done. Now, I don't know that, bedside is going to be for me in the future, because bedside has been beating your girl down. Okay. It is rough. It is not for the faint of heart. You will get out there and you'll cry. You will. I did. Um, but it is rewarding and it is great. I just don't see myself doing bedside, until I retire or until the day I die or whatever. It's not for me. It's physically demanding, it's mentally draining, and it's emotionally difficult. So You have to definitely know that nursing is a great way to go because you can move into so many other career paths. It doesn't have to be bedside. You can definitely be administrative. You can go into nursing informatics, aesthetics. Yeah, it runs the gamut. You can do whatever you want to do. For me, I definitely plan to finish my nursing degree, get my master's, because I do want to possibly go into therapy, which is another thing that's going to help me to be able to live abroad. I can work for myself. I love helping people, talking to people, helping them work through their problems. And mental health is a big thing in our community right now. So it is something that is near and dear to my own heart personally. And I want to be of service in that way. Now, the school that I did find, I have not settled on the exact program for sure. Um, it is a school that allows for you to pretty much be anywhere. They don't really care. You just have to fly here to do your clinical portion. And that works for me. So I will be flying back and forth to do my clinicals. And I want to say there's 6 or 7 clinical rotations that I'll have to be present for. And then I'll just fly back here to do my testing and whatever else I have to do. Nursing is a career that you can go on in for a very long time. So, definitely, if you're looking to challenge the board, check with your state to see if you are eligible for that. Check with your school to see if they will allow it and how far you are in your program. I believe you had to have like med surge, mother baby, I think like geriatrics or something like that done. I can't remember, but it was about 3 to 4 semesters of nursing classes. So definitely look into that. If you have questions, leave it in the comments. I will try to answer as many as I can. But definitely look into that because it is something, it's an option. So for me, I'm looking at it like, well, if you're in nursing school and maybe your state or your area doesn't allow for student nurses at the hospital for you to get some experience beforehand, you can definitely challenge the board, become an LPN, and work while you are in the remainder of your program and gain your experience that way. So there are so many options. You just have to look for them. But that's all for today. So I'm hoping that you all continue to follow me on this here journey of returning back to school, preparing to move abroad, and anything else that I may have going on in my life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and share. On the glass, steam on the window. Quiet little reset before the world gets